Masihkah kau mengingat di saat kita masih 17? Waktu di mana tanggal-tanggal merah terasa sungguh meriah. Masihkah kau ingat cobaan terberat kita matematika? Masihkah kau ingat lagu di radio yang merdu mengudara? Kita masih sebebas itu, rasa takut yang tak pernah mengganggu batas naluri bahaya. Dulu tingginya lebih logika. Putaran bumi dan waktu yang terus berjalan menempa kita. Walau kini kita terpisah, namun jiwaku tetap di sana. Di masa masih sebebas itu, di masa rasa takut yang tak pernah mengganggu, di masa naluri bahaya. Dulu tingginya lebih logika. Kisah kita abadi untuk selama-lamanya.
Yo. Hi guys, did you miss me? I missed you too. Dumelang bon dia, bonjour, makadini, habari, mangwanani, mlao, sanbonani, murbuanji, goeiemiddag, and good day. As I've asked you, did you miss me? Because I missed you too. I can see all the love. So welcome to our webinar. As you know, that the International Conference on Population and Development, which took place in 1995, it marked a positive shift in recognizing the sustainable development that hinges on prioritizing human rights, empowering women and girls, and ensuring that sexual reproductive health and rights, it is for all. We mark this 30 years. I mean, you know that it took place in 1994, right? So as we mark 30 years, we want to make sure that there is proper assessment. There is proper assessment when it comes to progress, when it comes to knowledge, when it comes to the challenges that we are facing. But before I dive more into what this conversation is all about, just a few quick housekeeping rule. Rule number one, make sure that your mic is muted at all times, and make sure that if you want to serve us your face card, that it's very demure, it's very cutesy, it's very lovely, and that your background, it doesn't have anything that it's going to step on anybody's toes. And then the second one is that because you know Joplofons here, we also speak a bit of Portuguese. We are a very diverse group of young people. We have Portuguese, we have French. So quickly, if you're using a mobile phone, you can go quickly down. There are three buttons, and then you will see a very nice globe. As I've said, we are in Africa, but global citizens, right? Yes, I know. So you go to the globe, you select the language that you want to use. If you are English speaking like me, you can continue listening in this channel, or if you Jubla Fonte, you can go to the French interpretation, and then you click on it. You listen swiftly through the whole conversation that we are going to have. And if you want to listen in Portuguese, you can also select Portuguese. But colleagues, comrades, beautiful people, make sure you select the language that you understand. I know we are all for learning, right? Because one of the things about Youth Power Hub, it's we are pushing learning and education. But this is not the time to learn. This is the time to listen in and take notes and engage with us. Another thing is that please tell us your name. I know most of you, but you also know me. But we, as I've said, we are a diverse group. We want to know everybody. Please tell us your name, tell us your country, or you can fly the flag. You know, I like flying the flag. You can fly the flag and write the name of your organization and one ICPD commitment that you would like your country to achieve if they haven't achieved it. So it's four things. You write your name, you fly your flag, you write the name of your organization, and then you write one ICPD commitment that you would like your country to achieve. For instance, I'm going to write it again. My name is Lerato Lagamurulane Stlogolo Sabarolong, but I'm not going to write all of that. I'm just going to give you, my technical name, which is Lerato Murulani, and I am based in South Africa, but I'm very, very African and hopefully living in Kenya soon. Hint, hint. and I am part of the African Youth and Adolescent Network on Population and Development. And one ICPD commitment that I would like my country to achieve, and I'm sure most of you, you've seen it in the news, is to ensure that femicide ends, gender-based violence ends, so that we can live in a country that is very safe and people are able to fulfill all their potential without being scared of what might happen to them. So before, as I've said, I tell you more about this because there are so many objectives. We have 5 objectives that we want to achieve out of this webinar, which one of them is enhancing understanding on the international conference on population and development. We want to strengthen your engagement. We see there is Lois here. You see there are your Nomatembas. We want you guys to network and work together. We want to also facilitate the tracking. As I've said, we want to know what is that one commitment that you want to achieve in your country. And we want to know what are some of the other commitments that are left behind. But as I've said, I can say what, Bona, listen, me, I talk. I talk and talk and talk and share information. I think I was a teacher in my previous life. So I'm going to quickly invite over. I call her my Rafiki. If you don't know what Rafiki is, Google is your friend. I'm not going to tell you more. So I'm going to call my Rafiki, my comrade, quickly to come in and actually give us few words. Tell us what is YPH? Why YPH? Who is YPH? And actually, why are we having this conversation today? So help me, a round of applause. If you can open your video, we're going to welcome her with a round of applause. Don't open the sound. Just round of applause or show her some love. Please help me to welcome Lillian Maria Wambui, who will be giving us the purpose of the day. Lillian, over to you.
Kia leboha rafiki, thank you so much, and good afternoon, good morning, good evening from wherever you're joining us from. We are so honored. My name is Lian Wamboisi. I love you so much, Larato. I've just said my name is your name. My name is Lian Wamboi. I am 1/3 of the Youth Power Hub. I'm so happy and honored that you have joined us. I'm happy to be joined by my co-hosts, Sharon Koki, Lerato, Egan in the technical benches, as well as representatives from AfriYAN, SI, UNICEF, and UNFPA SRO. Thank you for taking time to join us on this webinar. And for those of you who are new, who are we? Well, we are the Youth Power Hub. The Youth Power Hub is a partnership between AfriYAN, SI, UNFPA, SRO, and WIACT Youth in Action. We are a regional digital platform anchored on the pillars of education, engagement, and collective action. And we work with youth-led organizations and young people to support their youth-led social accountability efforts in tracking the pace of commitments within East and Southern Africa. We are very big on digital advocacy, and one of the things that we do well is masterclasses and webinars. And this year we're having a series of webinars and masterclasses to continue raising awareness on the pace of tracking of the ICPD commitments, looking at the challenges, of course, that exist because we do not live in a bubble. We are a regional platform, but we have so many things that are around us that are challenging us, that are impeding our progress to some of the implementation of some of the commitments. So it's good to hear from ourselves, what are the things that we can do? How can we work together to ensure that we don't fall asleep, that we do not drop our spades? Today's webinar is an exciting one. We'll be hearing from young people, and we'll also get an opportunity to talk to a global organization such as UNFPA and tell them what you'd like to see, what is the importance of partnerships, how can youth-led organizations and young people be the front, center, and back of leading the awareness raising of all these commitments, and what do we want to see for as young people? How can we strengthen our partnerships? How can we work together in this global space? So Larato, let me not talk so much. Allow me to give you the floor, and thank you everyone. And remember, we have translation in Portuguese and in French. So please feel free, tell us who you are on the chat, say hello. And as Larato has said, tell us one commitment that you'd like to see implemented in your country and why it is important for you. Larato, over to you, and asante sana.
Asante sana. So the nice thing about being African, guys, is that you can say thank you in so many ways. Miabarinyo, asante sana, galeboha, tatenda. There's so many, like we are a choice basket. Do you get it? But anyway, because we are a choice basket and we are young people and we want to come up with our own solutions. We are solution driven. We are the leaders of today, not tomorrow, not the next 5 minutes. I'm literally a leader right now. So I have two powerful host forces, two young people from Mozambique and from the east. So we have one from the south, we have another one from the east because we wanted to represent the whole community. We have one young person. His name is Benedito Machava. He is diplomat with a degree in international relations and diplomacy. He serves as a program coordinator at AfriYAN, Mozambique, where he advances youth rights with a focus on sexual reproductive health and rights. And his international experience includes serving as a correspondent for the Korea African Foundation and representing youth at the global platforms such as the Nairobi Summer School for Climate Justice 2023, COI 19 in Baku, and the African Union and United Nations climate events. So you see some of your questions that you will be having. I mean, he will be able to escalate. In South Africa, we have a song, they say helicopters. So, he will escalate it. And we also have the most beautiful, I also call her my Rafiki, who is Salha Aziz. She is the founder and executive director of the Bin Salha Foundation. She's currently the Tanzanian Global Partnership for Education youth leader. You see, we have climate, we have education. Salha, she is also the Youth Power Hub representative for Tanzania. She's the SDG champion and advocate for adolescent girls and young women's rights to quality education. So when it comes to quality education, CSE, Salha is your woman. She is also an economic freedom and good health advocate. She is very, very passionate for education holding on education. She is holding a bachelor degree of arts with education, and she believes that when a young girl, listen to this, I want you guys to quote this actually. You quote it, you're gonna put it on Twitter, and you're gonna, is it X? Yes, on X or on Facebook or whatever social media using the hashtag YPH, right? So you're gonna put it. She believes that when a young girl is empowered, a community is empowered. So when a young girl is empowered, a community is empowered. That is why she is committed to being a change agent and empowering other young girls through her profession. So we are going to have a conversation right now, to share their experiences, to share how can we make sure that we better, what is happening right now, because we have the stop order, and as our session it's called, it's from Cairo to action. We actually want to see the changes. We actually want to make sure that even though we have so much negative things happening, we have so many people that are trying to change the work that we have done so far. There's so many resources that have been cut off. How can we ensure that, we continue the work that we are doing? So Benedito, I want to hear from you, my brother. And, we are ringetela. We are going to talk. We can speak Portuguese, nga ringetela, and I will translate, or you can speak in English. So I want to know from your experience as a young diplomat. I want to use that, not in inverted commas, as a young diplomat, because I know that the moment you become a diplomat, you have a reach. So, how accessible are international policy spaces like your ICPD to the young people from the Eastern and the Southern African region? And what barriers still persist in making that engagement, truly meaningful, avoiding using young people to tick boxes or as pawns? So, as a young diplomat, as I've said, how accessible are these have these spaces, and what barriers are still there, gatekeeping, making that engagement truly meaningful?
Hello, Lerato. Thanks for calling me to to talk now. I don't know if I will go to the expectations, because I saw when you introduced us, there was a good vibe. But going straight to the question that you and Lillian addressed to us, like what commitment that we would like to see in our country achieved. I think that I will go with the same with you, Lerato. I believe that ending the gender-based violence is the basic, because if you can do that, a lot of other commitments can be achieved, such a gender quality. It's possible to achieve it when there is no gender-based violence in the community, in the public sectors, and in different space. To the question of these debates or dialogue, I think that the access of young people in the police space, such ICPD, it's still limited. I believe that we have good improvements. We have achieved a lot to young people be there, and we have the meaningful participation, but it's still limited. I explain why I think so. As as a young diplomat that I like to call myself, because I believe that when we understand the dynamics of international relations, we can have a, a, a meaningful impact in our communities, because we will develop by others' examples. I was saying that I believe that the access is still limited. However, we have some improvement. It's because we see that a lot of people, or a lot of young people, they still not understand what is the importance of international space to make policies. We see also that in our countries, we have governments that were there in their ICPDs in Cairo, but the commitment was just in documents, but we don't see it implemented in the national levels. We don't see the engagement of the government. We don't see the commitment to mobilize resources that youth can be really included. What we feel the most is international organizations such UNFPA, AMREF, and others. They mobilize a lot of resources that they can empower young people. They create space that they can empower young people, but it comes through invitations. They send invitations to Benedito because they see Benedito. It's a leader it's a young leader in Africa, in Mozambique, and they've been doing some activities, and they invite him. And Benedito is also a member of a youth lead organizations. So they see that Benedito belongs to organizations. But we still have a lot of people that did not belong to any organization at all. How you put those people in those space? It's difficult unless that you publish the call for application so they can apply to be in those space. But if there is not that a mechanism, you won't reach those people because they don't even know what ICPD is. They don't even know what we are talking about when we host such kind of events where we are talking about the ICPD commitment. And for my case, or for the case of Mozambique, I still believe that the language is still a big challenge. In Africa, we have a lot of people that they speak French or English, but in Portuguese, just Mozambique, Angola, and some countries that when we saw those opportunities for application, when sometimes it is in English and there's no option for the translation, people just do not access it. So that's why we go to events. We'll find 10 people, for example, from Nigeria and one from Mozambique. That is because of the language that we sometimes access the opportunities. And the other point is the lack of trust between the youth and the government. When you are not a part of any organization and you are individual, you really do not understand the importance of engaging the government in your activities. So that's why we attend a lot of activities and we produce reports, but just for our organization. We never share it with government bodies like the Minister of Youth Affairs and the different organizations, so they can understand that we're attending those activities and they can support us. We not engage them, so that's why sometimes it seems like they are not available to support us, but it's because we are not engaging them as well. So they do not see any responsibility to be engaging us in their plans in their activities. So just to end that one, this year by September 29, something like that, there will be an event in New York, if I'm not mistaken, about the 30 years of the World Program of Youth of Action of Youth. I don't know if you are still listening to me.
Yes, we are. We are
okay.
still with you,
Okay.
Benedito. Yes, You know,
Okay,
I
thanks.
like the
So,
yeah, I like the part where you're speaking about young people being part of organizations so that they can be listened to. And you know, it ends up pushing young people to be part of constituencies or being part of organizations that are not actually in in line with their, I wouldn't say moral, but their vision, and they end up being muted because they want to belong to an organization so that they can have a voice. And I'm gonna come back to you. You know, when you're speaking about that, I want to go quickly to Salha, because you know she's the executive director. She actually found her voice. She was like, you know, I'm not gonna search for myself in other parts whereby I'll end up losing myself. I'm actually gonna do something, and you know, make a change out there without being diluted, without being muted or other things. So Salha, because of that, you know, because of having your organization, you've also led efforts to track the regional commitments, the ICPD commitments. So I want you to paint the picture for us, you know, where walk us through this moments where you had to collect data, where you had to collect evidence, where you had to actually make sure that your advocacy leads to a real shift in accountability or action to the ground, because I understand that it's not easy. You know, as Benedito mentioned or alluded to the fact that some people don't know anything, especially in the countries, especially in the rurals. You know, they don't know anything when it comes to the ICPD, or maybe it might be a language barrier, because you understand some, you know, in Tanzania, in maybe in the town, in the not in the rural, but in town, they speak a bit of English, and then when you move down or when you move up, they speak more of Kaswahili. And how do you manage that? So how have you managed to collect the data, the evidence, and make sure that the whatever that you've collected, it moves into the ground? There is accountability when it comes to government, and what actually worked for you as a young woman. I want you to highlight that, because you know we are still in an age where our government is occupied by probably 90% or 80% of men. Some others, it's even 95% men. So what worked for you as Salha?
Hello, thank you so much, Lerato. I feel the vibe, you know, as youth, when we have platforms like this, we talk about our issues, we talk about the commitments that our governments put on. It's really good, and it's very, very promising to see how we can hold accountable our governments. As you asked the question, actually, as the executive director of the INSAL Foundation, I have been deeply involved in championing regional commitments, and not only as SAHA, but as an organization. And among those commitments, we actually made sure that we are championing the fulfillment of the ICPD25 commitments and the Maputo Protocol as well. And one of the key lessons that we have got from our work is that while international commitments and policies are essential, actually this real impact happens when these commitments are translated into practical, measurable indicators that communities can monitor. So for example, for us, when we actually got an opportunity to have the YPH fund, we actually implemented the YPH project. And what we did in tracking the commitments is the policy and accountability monitoring, as we reviewed all the commitments with our fellow youth-led organizations, and see how they have been, as the government have strategized, they have budgeted for us as youth to access those services, information, and actually to see that the commitments are aligned with the ICPD 25 goals. So we try our level best to make sure that as youth, we come together and collectively we advocate for the commitments to be put into place and in practice, and actually the implementation. So we also did the social media campaign, as we advocated for the implementation of those commitments as well, and we were pushing it to the ministry, the concerned ministries like the Minister of Health, the Minister of Youth and Labor, to ensure that those commitments that they have set for youth have been achieved. So we specifically targeted the ministries, the specific ministries, and posing our concerns on seeing the implementation of those commitments happens on the ground. And the other thing that we did is we made sure that we train more youth so that we can have a collective voice and effort. So we trained more youth advocates to engage them in this policy discussion on these commitments so that we can together come and demand for the accountability on the ICPD commitments and priorities that favor us as youth, as we are supposed to get those services and stuff as our needs. But also, there are issues that we actually championed in an umbrella of coalition, as we are part of the coalition against the maternal mortality and morbidity. And we tried our level best to ensure that we fight for the domestication of the Article 14 of the Maputo Protocol, as we didn't speak about the commitment in abstract terms, but instead we linked it directly to the evidence. So we use the data on the unmet need for family planning, the maternal mortality rates, the contribution of unsafe abortions to maternal health outcomes, just to show the magnitude of the problem so that they can see the need of the implementation of those regional commitments. Speaking of the ICPD and the Maputo Protocol as well. So by grounding this advocacy in clear, we locally, we saw a real shift on the ground. So the government and local authorities became more responsive. We've seen it. So they recognize that these commitments were not theoretical. They're supposed to be directly tangible and applied in our community, because they directly, affect these young women's lives. And actually, when we speak about the commitments that the ICPD commitments, they mostly affect, the challenges that if these commitments are made or implemented, they are going to solve a lot of problems to girls more than boys, because we know as youth, when we come together, these girls are more challenged than the boys. So this experience underscored that what works is combined data, evidence, and community-focused advocacy to turn commitments into actionable accountability. So we made sure that we hold the government accountable by showing them the magnitude of the problem. And we have seen it working, as here in Tanzania, as you know, when it comes to access to safe abortion is still an issue, but at least we managed to collectively in that coalition, we managed to push the government to at least register the mifepristone and miso so that they can at least reduce the issues of unsafe abortion to these girls in our country. Thank you so much, Lerato.
Thank you, Salha. You know, when you touched the issue of community data driven evidence, like I just put it in one sentence. When you reach out to the government or when you present a solution to the government, it hit home, because most of the time we would go and say the government doesn't do this, doesn't do that, only to realize that they don't prioritize that, because we only go there to complain, but don't bring out the data, don't bring out the evidence, and don't bring out what is actually happening on the ground. Because what works in Tanzania might not work in South Africa. And in Tanzania, you might have, or in Tanzania, you might have an issue with child marriage. In Kenya, you might have an issue of FGM. And in South Africa, we have an not FGM, but we have an issue with gender-based violence. You know, as much as those issues, all of them might be GBV, however, they are different. So you cannot approach them in one direction. So I want this to actually be responded by Benedito. So we know that many youth advocates, and that's why I'm talking about government and bringing evidence. So many youth advocates, they struggle with navigating or understanding the formal entry points when it comes to global processes. You know, some of us, we are local and we love working in the local part, and we don't see that our local work actually feed into the global, feed into the national, feed into the regional and the international, obviously, platforms. So there are so many young people that are still trying to navigate that and understand that. So what specific mechanisms as a diplomat, have worked for you or have failed you? And how can we make these mechanisms youth friendly? Because, most of the time right now it's been shown, I think I was reading an article just during the week that I forgot the name of the country where they spoke that 1 in 4 young people can't read. So it means that there is an issue when it comes to education. It's either books or maybe the screen time, or but there is an issue there. So we want to know, when it comes to the formal entry of the global processes, what has which mechanism have worked for you, what has failed, and those that have failed you, how can we make them youth friendly? How can we make them user friendly, for a lack of better word, without even saying youth friendly, user friendly, so that we can be able, not all of us, as you've said, we have difficulties with languages, can write bougie English. You have to translate from, from Shangani, from translating to Shangani, you translate to Portuguese, and then from Portuguese, you translate it to English, which somewhere, somehow, your words end up being, misunderstood. So, and I would love if you could respond in Portuguese, so that, you can give your heart into it. You don't have to translate and lose us in translation. So, yeah, what worked for you, what failed you, and how can we make it youth friendly or user friendly? You have 3 minutes, Benedito. You have 3 minutes.
Ok, Lerato. Só 3 pontos, possivelmente, para explicar quais são esses mecanismos que podem ser adotados para que os jovens tenham uma participação nesses fóruns globais. O primeiro, acho que é a criação de plataformas locais. Cada país tem os conselhos nacionais da juventude. Infelizmente, acabam se tornando muito politizado, o que acaba não priorizando os assuntos ligados à saúde sexual, as questões ambientais, entre outros temas. Então, há uma necessidade de criação de plataformas que, mesmo não sendo reconhecidas pelo governo, são plataformas que lidam com a juventude, são plataformas que falam sobre esses compromissos do ICPD, que falam também das questões dos objetivos de desenvolvimento sustentável, seja nas escolas, nas igrejas, nos mercados, entre outros pontos. A experiência pessoal, desde 2022, nós estamos a trabalhar com líderes religiosos. Então, nós temos a oportunidade de, nas igrejas, a falarmos um pouco sobre as nossas atividades. Mas, em contrapartida, também, o que beneficia direto esses jovens das igrejas é falarmos um pouco sobre como é que eles podem participar em fóruns globais. É por isso que já tivemos uma oportunidade de 3 ou 2 jovens, se não estou enganado, acho que 2, porque acabamos não conseguindo o bilhete para ele viajar. 2 dessas igrejas já conseguiram viajar para participar em algumas atividades fora do país, em algumas plataformas juvenis ao nível do continente. Eu acho que o que falha é quando as plataformas são criadas com o envolvimento do governo, muitas delas acabam se tornando políticas e só focam em questões políticas. E a necessidade é que haja plataformas que, mesmo não sendo oficiais, estejam em igrejas, universidades, mercados e outros sítios. Essas plataformas acho que são as melhores, porque as pessoas têm tempo de te ouvir, porque sabem que vão ganhar alguma coisa quando você explora essas oportunidades. E nós temos que estar disponíveis para ajudar, por exemplo, em garantir fundos para que essas pessoas, quando concorrerem a essas oportunidades de fora, tenham pelo menos como viajar para participar, ajuda de custos, pelo menos naquilo que for possível, nós ajudarmos, conseguimos o fazer. Então, acho que há essa necessidade. E também uma outra forma, eu acho que nós temos que começar a fazer de tudo para que nos nossos ministérios, pelo menos, existam conselhos consultivos juvenis. Existem conselhos consultivos ao nível do próprio ministério, mas dificilmente vão falar assuntos da juventude, porque dentro dos ministérios só tem um ponto focal, uma pessoa que lida com a juventude dentro de um ministério. Então, se existiam conselhos consultivos juvenis, acho que seria maravilhoso, seria uma oportunidade imensa para que nós possamos abordar mais as nossas aspirações e, quiçá, alcançar os compromissos ICPD. Então, é mais ou menos isso, Leira.
Obrigado. And you know, that's the issue that most African countries are facing. We have somebody who is no longer in the youth bracket, and they are literally leading young people. And when you look at the issues that young people are facing, they have no idea what's happening. You know, right now we have technology facilitated gender-based violence. They are still in the knowing of gender-based violence as it is. They don't know a lot about online bullying. They don't know a lot about, a lot about what are the issues that are being faced by young people. And to train them or retrain them, it takes so much resources, whereby we could be investing those funds on young people that are the leaders of today and tomorrow, to ensure that, whatever issue that we are facing when it comes to the ICPD commitments, they are achieved. Because trust me, if we don't do some of the things that you spoke about, which is making sure that we have young people leading in government, making sure that the issues that are faced by young people are sorted out by young people, come 2035, 20, not 2035, I almost said 2035, plus, yes, 2035, come 2030, we will be still talking about eradicating gender-based violence. We will still be talking about making sure that our cities are safe. We will still be talking about making sure that young people have proper education, comprehensive sexuality education. So, Salha, because you are a young person and you are leading fellow young people, and you, as I've said, you're the leader of today. And by 2030 or 2035, we want to make sure that whatever issue that we are facing today, I'm one person, I don't want the next generation to talk about the same issue that we are talking about in 2025. I want them to actually talk about how the generation, the Gen Z or the Gen Y, came up with a solution that the Generation Alpha are not facing, making sure that we are an HIV-free generation, making sure that we are gender-based free generation. What they can talk about in the 2030 or 2035, it's how they can make sure that AI, for instance, it's user-friendly or whatever that will be the issue. So, Salha, I want to know, moving forward, what advice would you give a youth-led group that is starting from scratch? Zero funding, zero mandate, zero information, like they are on zero, no funding, limited access, they are from scratch. What advice would you give them, and how would you advise them also to track the commitments in their own country with zero resources, and where can they actually begin? Salha?
Thank you so much, Lorato. Actually, I would like just to be honest that it is not simple. It's not easy, but it is very possible. It is not impossible at all. So what I would actually advise my fellow youth-led groups is that, first of all, we should start with clarity. Like, you have to begin with clearly defining with which commitment or policies that you want to track. So you also have to understand the objective of those policies or commitments and what success looks like to you. Like, as Lerato has said, that what she's saying now, she doesn't want the coming youth to face the same problem when in the near future. So you also have to picture what success looks like to you when it comes to attainment of those commitments or implementation of those policies, and which indicators can show progress. But also, without clarity, you have to know that your efforts can easily become scattered. To be just, you are doing this, you are leaving it with no success, with no achievement, you run into another thing. But also you have to build your network. Like you can connect with other youth-led organizations, like civil society groups, and actually the community leaders as well, that you share the same goals. For example, as for us, as I shared before, that we joined hands with the CAMAC, the Coalition Against Maternal Mortality, and we worked together to see the impact that we have seen. So you really need to try a level base to build your network, connect with other youth-led organizations, but also don't forget the leaders that you share the same goals, that they can at least listen to you and see they can support you to reach the high-level leaders as well. And we know that the collaboration always multiplies the impact, and it also helps share the resources, because the little that you have, you can bring together on the table and work together and see the massive impact on what we are working on. And you can also create a support system for advocacy and data collection. Like, because of you have a network, you know, when you want data on ICPD commitments implementation, you know, you can go to UNFPA and get the data. You know, you can go to Maristops maybe and get the data. So, you know, when you have this network, you can create that support system, because you can get support from those organizations. But at the same time, when you have the idea, they can actually support you to implement with the resources that they have. And another thing that I can also advise is to leverage the publicly available data. Like, we have the data from our country data systems. For example, in Tanzania, we have NBS. So before collecting your own data, because you don't have resources, you cannot say that I can't start today because I don't have data, I don't have resources to go to the community and collect data. So instead, you can use the available data that are available in our publicly. So you can actually explore the government reports. You can see the UN data portals, research publications, different research publications, and actually the data, the NGO database as well. So this data can help you understand the baseline. You can know how to track the progress and make your advocacy more credible, because you now see this data have shown you the problem available in a certain commitment, and how are you going to work on that and ensure that when you get the information on that issue in the 2 or 3 years, you can measure how you have contributed to that problem. And as youth as well, we can break down our commitments into practical, like local indicators that you can monitor. Like, you cannot do things, big things, if you know that we don't have enough resources. So as for us, we knew that we have very limited resources. So we had the advocacy, training to youth advocates only in Dar es Salaam, because we know we can use these youth in Dar es Salaam with the little that we have. We cannot say that we need all the whole Tanzania youth advocates, while we know our resources are very limited. So you can translate those, you can break down those commitments into practical and local indicators that you can monitor, and you can see how you are going to work on it. So for example, if your commitment is related to family planning as well, you can just focus on family planning. You can actually track access to contraceptives. You can learn from the information that these youth are giving you. It can be just in universities. You can just collect data from the universities that are near you, or maternal health or outcomes in your community. You can see how you gather data from the community that is surrounding you, instead of aiming higher to go to remote areas that we don't have resources to reach there. But it also can engage the community. Like, you can train them and involve community members as citizen monitors. Because, you know, when you also want data from them, if they don't have idea or knowledge on what you're asking them, it is so hard for them to give you the relevant data. They will always actually, you might sometimes find them have no information at all. So when you ask a question, they can just tell you, I don't know. That means you don't get the real data. You'll just get the information that she doesn't know. But if you give them the information, raise their awareness, it will be so easier for you to know that when I ask them this question, they can give me the right answer to this question or to this information. So their first-hand knowledge strengthens data quality and ensures advocacy reflects the real needs. So when you are talking about unsafe abortion to university students, you have to know, like these university students knows that when they do this, this is unsafe abortion. But if for them, they think it's safe, you will get the data that are not quality enough for you to use them to advocate for the commitments. Lastly, I can say start small and think big.
In a minute.
Yeah, in a minute. Start small and think big. Begin with a manageable pilot in one community or district, as I said before. Learn from experience. Document your successes and challenges, and gradually scale up as you gain credibility and skills. As for us, we went through that, the YPH project that we did has actually helped us build our organization, being relevant, being seen with big organization. And actually today, when we apply for more funds and tell them what we are doing and what we have been doing, it is so easy for them to trust us and give us resources to expand what we have been doing, especially in ICPD commitments, tracking and advocating on those issues. Thank you so much, Lerato.
Thank you. I think you also forgot to mention that the nice thing about getting the funding from YPH is that they took you through the ODSS training, you know, where your organization had the opportunity to be strengthened, to be taught on how to manage funds. And yeah, but anyway, that's a topic for another day. So, colleagues, comrades, if you have any questions at the top there, if you're using a laptop or if you're using a mobile phone, there is something, there's a box written Q&A. You can leave your question there and we will respond to it. But before we respond to it, I'm quickly, in like 5 to 10 minutes, I'm going to hand over to my another Rafiki. I'm a very Rafiki person. Like, I'm Rafiki everywhere. I'm gonna hand over quickly to my another Rafiki. Her name is Sharon Cocky. She will be taking us through the Menti session. So please make sure that your phone is able or your laptop is able to log into Menti, because this is very vital. This is like the tip of the session, you know, when it's the climax of the session. So please make sure that you participate in this Menti. So Sharon, before I bring in Sharon, I like one thing that Salha mentioned when she was talking about starting small and thinking big. One other thing I'm taking from what she said is that please, comrades, colleagues, one other thing that makes Africa not reach its peak is we let funds blind us. Please, as soon as you get the funding, don't let it blind you and be like, oh, you know, my roof had issues. You said you are going to use the funds to make sure that young people have access to contraceptives or they have information. Your roof will come in later. We know that it's a to-do, like it's very important, but use the funds for what you applied for. So with that said, Sharon, you're going to take us on the policy session. Please, guys, make it interactive. Respond to her. She's very demure. She's very cutesy and likes to hear people when she speaks and likes to be answered. If you don't answer her, our session will take an hour, because if you don't answer, she's gonna think nobody's there and she won't leave until you answer. So Sharon, over to you.
Thank you, Lerato. Thank you. And I know I'm going to have a bone to chew with you, but I cannot turn on my camera. My internet just went out. So turning on my camera might be a bit slow for the bandwidth. But colleagues, let me just share the Menti code with you. So we are going to go to menti.com. Menti.com. I'm just typing it in the chat box. So we are going to go to menti.com and then you're going to type 3218, just writing it on the chat, 3218-9814. That's 3218-9814. Are we together? Please give me a thumbs up. Sorry, I've been sending it to our interpreters. I'm so sorry. Go to www.menti.com and then we're going to write 3218-9814. Please let me know once you're there so that we can begin. I can't see the chat box. I keep texting the wrong people. I'm so sorry. I have texted now correctly. Go to www.menti.com and then the code is 32189814. Just typing it in the chat box real quick. Please let me know if you can receive the link on the chat now. Thumbs up for that link. Once you're there, please let me know. I can see 9 people, 10. We are 60 in this group. I need to see at least 30 people on there. I can see 15. 21. Allow me to share my screen so we can see together where everyone is. All right. I hope everyone can see my screen. And don't worry if you can't join. If you can't join, it's still okay. I think you can type your answer in the chat box. We're 27 strong. I need to see at least 30, 35. All right. Please also, as we begin this question, what makes a partnership with youth truly meaningful and not just symbolic? Let's take a step back probably and talk why we are having this conversation. We wanted because we couldn't get a UNFPA speaker, we wanted now for this question to be reflected back to them, as we're used to having policymakers, institutions speak to us as youth. Now it's our time to speak to them. What do you think makes a partnership with youth truly meaningful? And these responses that we're collecting here today will be directed back to UNFPA, who will give us an answer through an opinion piece that will be shared to you sometime next week with this answer. So if you have any question or answer you want it answered by UNFPA SRO, please just interact with this Menti. I can see a couple of answers are coming in. And I know colleagues, equal partnerships are very different. We do not want youth who are just present in the room. We do not want youth for photo ops. We've seen many organizations do that. And we see young people making up the majority of our population, especially in Africa, and decisions are made for us rather than with us. So today we're just trying to hear maybe a perspective from you that we'll share with UNFPA. Yeah, so let us know what makes partnerships. So we're going to see the answers you guys are giving. Engagement at the beginning of projects and not in the middle or during or an afterthought. I love that. Yes, I agree. I stamp on that. When youth can have a voice and they there are recommendations taken to the policymakers. So you guys, when you write police, as Kenyans, we fear when you see police, policymakers, and turned into public policy. We have accountability, transparency, and values. Whoever wrote accountability, please type for us in the chat box. What is accountability to you? And a meaningful youth partnership values their voices in decision-making, ensures shared power. I love shared power, real impact, not just token participation. Just seen a couple of inputs, engaging in community activities together for the betterment of the upcoming youth. Whoever wrote that, maybe you can give us ideas of some of the activities that policymakers and stakeholders such as UNFPA can also participate. Which ones are in your countries? UNFPA has offices everywhere across Africa, so please let us know which activities probably you could propose to them that you want them to participate in. And yeah, just type them in the chat box. We'll pick them up and share those responses. We have 25 responses so far. This is quite nice. Let's get to 30 before we move to our next question. And for those who can't access the Menti, please just type it in the chat box. I'm sure my good Rafiki Lerato is keeping note of all the answers that are coming in. And my friend Lillian, yeah. So this question is more of seeing what just makes a partnership not feel like we are ticking the box with youth. We are bringing you for surveys, we're bringing you for focus group discussions. What makes you feel valued and not just being invited to the table to speak? Thank you. We have around 29 responses, which is good to go. I will take us to the next question. And our next question is, how would you feel moving from being engaged partners to equal partners when tracking the ICPD 30 commitments? We have talked about ICPD 30 commitments today. You've heard from Benedito, you've heard from Salha. Of course, you have also engaged with us before in the past within the AfriYAN network, within Youth Power Hub, within WIACT. How does that engagement look like? Engagement is good, but equality is always better. So how do we actually shift from being invited to being equal players in that field when it comes to holding your leaders accountable for the ICPD 30 commitments? How can young people move from just being engaged as partners? How do you want to be equal partners? So let's see a couple of answers. We're going to move once we get to 20 answers. So I'm going with your pace, guys. Okay, a couple of answers are coming in. You guys are so active. I love it. Young people can become equal partners in tracking ICPD by building skills, leading data collection, co-creating spaces, securing resources, by shifting from consultation to co-creation. How? I need the how, guys. Using our evidence-based data exactly from community voices. There must be shared responsibilities, involvement, involvement. Yeah, involvement and being collaborators. I don't know why it keeps going to the last slide. Involvement and being collaborators throughout. Youth become equal partners by accessing data, joining monitoring spaces, co-creating tools, and sharing power in decision-making for real accountability. We need passionate youth, knowledgeable and accountable. Peer-to-peer training, true, because we're always speaking about passing the torch. So if you don't pass the torch to the next leaders, the next youth who are upcoming, remember youth starts from 18 to 35. In some places, it's 15 to 30. So how are you passing the torch to them? How are you educating them so that they can take up the mantle of social accountability in their countries or in their communities? Youth-led research, of course, data always speaks. So you can't approach policymakers without data, or else they'll just disregard you. By having decision-making power, how do you have decision-making power? Probably if you're the one who wrote this, please write it in the chat box. How do you think youth can have decision-making power? Is it by joining politics? Is it by joining those policy-making spaces and becoming leaders there, or growing to become leaders there? How do they do that? Youth must be the ones planning and the activities and invite the government and not wait for the opposite. I need to clap for that. Yes. Always plan and invite the government. If not, make noise everywhere. They will notice you. Physical meetings and seminars could be helpful in bringing equity. How? I need the how. I need the how. Having the youth in government, exactly, and having them tackle issues involving the youth, data, and evidence. True. These are quite nice responses, guys. I think due to time, we are going to go to the next question. I see we are 25 strong answers, which are quite impressive. So we move to the next question. When partnerships with institutions don't work, what do you think is the biggest reason? So in this question, we're trying to get real. Not every partnership always feels great. When youth partnerships flop, what's usually behind it? Is it because the youth were engaged but not really engaged, quote unquote? Is it tokenism? Is it that you're only engaged for short term? I remember the first question somebody mentioned about not being involved from the start. They're probably brought on the project during the last stretch of it. So is it lack of resources or is it something else you've experienced? If your answer is not here, please write it in the chat box. My friend Lerato and Lillian are going to be checking it out. What do you think when partnerships with youth and institutions don't work? What is usually what do you think is the biggest reason? All right. I see it's a big it's a big race between decisions already being made for youth before consultation and tokenism. Very interesting. We have 16 responses so far. Keep them coming. And if you feel like you need to explain your answer, probably you can just write it in the chat box, or even after we're done with this Menti, we can just have a quick maybe reflection session to see why you answered a certain way, or if you want to speak and let us know your thoughts, we can. It's still a big tight race between decisions already being made for youth and tokenism. Yeah, I see we are 22 of us still going. We need to reach 30, guys. I can see we have 42 of us on that Menti. All right, let's keep going, guys. Let's keep going. I see we are 23 of us. Okay. Just to save on time, I think we can see already that the leading answer is why you think partnerships with youth don't work is that decisions are already being made for us before being consulted. Number 2 is tokenism. Number 3 is lack of resources for funding for youth. We are going to delve into that in a few, but let's go to the next question. If UNFPA and other UN agencies wanted to strengthen youth-led accountability, what one support would matter the most to you as a young person? Is it direct funding for youth-led initiatives? Is it mentorship or technical support? Is it consistency in policy decision-making spaces? Is it access to real-time data and evidence? If your answer is not here, please feel free to just type it in the chat. We will pick it up from there. So basically, if you're asking UNFPA for one concrete support to make youth-led accountability stronger, just one thing, what would it be? And if your answer is not here, please let us know in the chat box, or you can let us know in the follow-up Q&A. What do you think makes it practical to receive concrete support from not even just UNFPA, even like global spaces? So I can see there's a tight race between consistency in policy or decision-making spaces. There's mentorship and technical support. There's direct funding for youth-led initiatives. There's access to real-time data. Of course, if your answer is not here, please just type it in the chat box. All right. Oh, there's a tight race again between direct funding, mentorship, and consistent seat. I wonder who will be the tiebreaker, because I can see mentorship and consistent seat have the same votes. Quite interesting. If you can, please share your review. If you can't wait, we will do the reflection after this Menti. But thank you. Let's just finish up. Let's finish strong. This is our last question. We want to maybe dream a little. What does equal partnership with youth look like to you in 2030 in just one sentence? So we are now in 2030 in one sentence. What does that true equal partnership between youth and institutions look like? So paint that picture for us. How does that future look like for you? And I see we have 44 strong of us in the Menti, so I am expecting us to give one final big roundup to this question by getting 44 responses if I can. To me, an equal partnership with youth in 2030 means that young people have real decision-making power, resources and recognition, shaping policies and initiatives. True, love that. Responsibility sharing, equal partnership with youth in 2030 means sharing decision-making, equal power, resources, accountability. Why do I feel like number 1 and 2 are the same people? Okay, transparency. We have equal seats in parliament. I really hope that is achievable. We have so many African countries having elections in the next few years, so it will be important to see that. Decision-making spaces or decisions are made together, full consultative process at all levels. We have equal opportunities, having youths involved. Someone just copy-pasted the question. I hope you're not going to ChatGPT for that answer. Yeah, more answers, please, guys. We're 45 of us here. Mutual respect and funding. Equal partnerships means voices drive policies, our ideas shape solutions, and our leadership is fully recognizable. True. Let's get more responses, guys. Let's get to 25 or 30 before we close out this Menti. Equal partnership to this person means that young people truly co-decide policies and programs, have access to resources, and are fully recognized as influential actors in decisions affecting, I think, their livelihoods. If I'm not wrong, that one was cut off. Being on the decision-making table, Let's get to 25 before we close off. Let's finish up strong, guys. Having more youth as leaders, particularly in government decisions, where we can't find tokenism. True. Co-leading national development of efforts and holding institutions accountable through inclusive youth-led organizations, and equal chances in decision-making spaces and even political spaces. True. I agree with all this. So I'm going to put a stop on this Menti. And thank you so much for sharing your voices quite openly. What contributed here doesn't just go through this webinar, but it will be shared directly with UNFPA, who have also apologized for not being part of this webinar, but they would have loved to. They will take the time also to reflect on what you've said and respond in an opinion piece that will be shared in our quarterly newsletter, as well as the email that will go out with reflection points from today's webinar. That said, this is exactly what equal partnerships looks like. You, as the youth, setting the agenda for institutions to listen, and both sides co-creating a way forward. And I thank you so much for actively participating in that Menti. I am truly wowed by the youth in this space. And at this juncture, I'd like to hand it over to Lerato. Thank you so much.
Asante sana. Thank you very much. And for me, equal partnerships look like the last question. People not using GPT to for funding purposes or applying for funding, and because we will have the same answer and they will not take you seriously. So please, please, guys, we must think out of the gutter. I like to say, if you are thinking, don't think out of the box. Tear the box, ravish it, make it into pieces. We like to say piece in my language. So using Chat GPT, we will not get the answer that we are looking for because it will give us a generic response. So with that said, I'm quickly going to go to the Q&A. I would love to read your comments, colleagues, but you have so many comments, and we would use that also for the newsletter, because if we go on and I read all your comments, trust me, we will leave here at 2 p.m. South African time or 3 p.m. Eastern time. So, and on your comments, I like how you guys spoke about your clear voices and genuine accountability, and I believe that if we continue like that, imagine what Youth Power Hub would look like in the next 5 years. We would actually be the ones spearheading the ICPD 35 commitments, and maybe somehow being part of the people that we will be changing the SDGs, because in 2030 we need to also assess the SDGs. And remember, they were Millennium Development Goals. They became Sustainable Development Goals. We don't know what next they will be called. So we also need to be part of that. So luckily, we have 2 questions from Kijit Direje. I hope I said it correctly. Sorry for butchering your name. I'm going to give the first question to Salha, which is, how can we make sexual reproductive health and rights information and services more accessible and youth-friendly, especially in rural areas? So Salha, how can we make SRHR information and services more accessible and youth-friendly, especially in rural areas? And I'm going to give this one to Benedito. Benedito, the question is, what policy changes are most urgent to improve youth access to sexual reproductive health and HIV services? So, Salha, in a minute, I'm going to do it like this. I need you to respond to that in a minute or 2 minutes maximum. And then Benedito, I'm going to bring you in. And then Musa, you are asking, how can we get minutes of the meeting? You will get an email. If you're using your email and you didn't share your link that you got via your email with somebody else, or you didn't use somebody else's email, you will definitely get an email with a rundown of the meeting, of the notes, and there are chances that it might be also on YouTube. Yes, we are going to be celebrities. I know. So without wasting any time, we have 4 minutes left to round this up. So Salha, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lerato. So for us as BIMSA Foundation, what we do is to ensure that these people in rural areas and remote areas, they are reached either through us or through our partner organizations. So their messages, they are well crafted in the language that they use, like the resource materials has to have the information that these youth need. So we make sure that the distribution of those materials are reaching those areas. But also we are pushing, by doing advocacy, we are pushing and lobbying with the government, with the ministries, especially the Ministry of Health, to ensure that these youth are reached and these services are available in their areas. So that's typical what we do.
Short and simple like me. I thought you were going to go on and on and on and on, because I also had a view on how I will respond to that question, but I will respond it after Benedict's response. Benedito, over to you.
Thanks, Lerato. I believe that the policy that must be changed so we can improve youth access to sexual reproductive health and HIV service is to keep advocating that health must be an investment, not a need. the problem in our countries, in Africa in general, we see like health as a part of human needs, not as any investment where we should invest in people so we can have a next generation healthy. And I believe that we must change the ways we are budgeting in health, not to look in health as a need, but as an investment. So budgeting is what we must keep advocating so our government can indeed invest in health. That is what we need.
Mhm. I love the fact that you spoke about investing in budget, because most of the time when we have conversations, we don't talk to the finance department. We'll be like, this is a health issue, forgetting the Ministry of Finance or the Department of Finance, that they also need to make a budget available for that. So without wasting any time, I need 30 seconds, but let me respond. I want to do justice also because I'm also an SRHR advocate slash human rights advocate. So there's an anonymous attendee who is saying, oftentimes we talk about policies in the health sector. How can we ensure that these policies get to be assessed by healthcare workers in real time and are acted upon to benefit adolescent girls and adolescents and young people effectively? So what we can do is to make sure that when these policies are being sent out, because I know in my country they would usually, send out a call, not a call, but a document, and say it is for viewing. We would do not community, but there will be consultations. So we need to ensure that when these consultations happen, healthcare workers are invited. They are not just there to give us injection or medication, but they need to be also involved in these conversations. They need to be part of these consultations so that they can say, this is what we are facing. Because most of the time, our stories or our experiences tend to be one-sided. So as young people, one of our mandates, it should be that let's involve teachers, let's involve healthcare workers, if that is not the scenario in your country. And with that said, I want to give Salha and Benedito 30 seconds for their closing remarks before I officially become the fat lady and sing the last song. So, Benedito, 30 seconds, your parting comments, and then Salha, you can go after when he says obrigado.
Hi again. I just would like to thanks for the invitation to be changing ideas here today. It was it was amazing, by the way, with the moderation of Lerato, Kanimambu Lerato, and to AfriYAN Eza, my team, the best in Africa. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Salha?
Thank you so much, Lorato. As for me, I would just like to wrap up by saying that as youth, we still have a chance to keep pushing, to keep moving. We shouldn't give up. We have to believe in what we are assuming or we are dreaming to achieve. So let's keep pushing and keep moving. Asanteni sana.
Asante sana. So you've heard them. We need to push, we need to work together, and we need to make sure that when we involve each other as young people, we don't work in different directions. I don't like the word silos. We don't work in different directions. We must have a clear, and I repeat, a clear mandate. Think big, but think small. Yes, think big, but start acting small. And we need to ensure that whatever that we talk about when it comes to skills building, community engagement, we focus on data. We focus on other young people, their needs. We focus on young people in the rural areas, because having, it's not really a privilege for people to get healthcare services. It's something that it should always be there. We need to normalize healthcare access. We need to normalize people talking about the ICPD commitments, because these are the commitments that are made globally. They are not made for us. They are our commitments that we need to ensure that we achieve. We need to champion them in every way that we can. We need to make sure that the challenges that are faced by adolescent girls and young women, that are faced by adolescent boys and young men, they are champions, and those challenges, they are eradicated. As I've said, that we don't want to talk about these issues in 2030 or in 2035. We know it's not easy, as Salha said, but it's very much possible. And use evidence, use approved and credible data, and make sure that when you train other young people, you train them with factual information. Do not let funding blind you. Do not fall into the corrupt issues that we are having in Africa. So, with that said, Galabuha, Ndiabonga, Tatenda, Mwabarinyo, Asante Sana, by a donkey. Which language did I forget? Mazrita, for joining our session, which was titled From Cairo to Action, Youth in Leadership in Realizing the ICPD 30 Commitments Amidst Global Challenges. From Miss Lerato from you, Lerato Lakamurla Nestolo Sabarolog. As I've said, you've been good, you've been lovely, you've been very cutesy. Continue walking the walk and changing the world one day or 1 minute at a time. Goodbye, good night.
Whoa, chili on the track. Somebody for a snack. She just smell like paper. Known pretty hugger where you at. No style I run to, this style run by me. No trends on TikTok, I trend in your scene. What's real on IG? I'm G to the T. From CH to UK, ask about me. Don't sleep. What's the move? Okay. What's the move? Cool beans. What's the move? Cafe. Need sugar? What's the move? Coffee. What's the move? Whipped cream. What's the move? Frosted.
Hey, Katie, come by now, fly with me like miners. All I want to say is gonna last forever,
For when we slide, yeah. Move to the bass, it's a vibe, yeah. You know that we own the night, yeah. Can we feel alive for the night, yeah? Let's slide, yeah. They wanna dance, get the glance on my glow. No X-pill, cause the trans natural. Melanin dream with the hella machine. Damn, she's damn, a little energy pre. Dan diva, for my hands like Shiva.